Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Voice Acting Coaching. We are here to play around with some more characters and have some more fun. This is my favorite series. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have another lovely individual with us here today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we'll get started. So my friend, go ahead and tell the people about you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for this wonderful opportunity and this lesson to get more experience under my belt. My name is Constantine. I go by the handle of ConstantineVO. Pronouns are he, him. And I'm someone who's been wanting to get into the voice acting industry for a long time. I have a bit of a rough background around opera and other various exposures to just voice acting as a whole and other more forms of theater. My goal with this lesson is to come out better, to strengthen my base foundation, as well as being able to learn how to be a character more and how to bring myself to said character to the table. That being said, once again, thank you for everything, and I'm very honored to be here.
Yay! I'm super excited. So we are gonna go right into it. I love just throwing people into the mess of things. So go ahead, my friend, and perform for us this dialogue. We sort of have a little bit of a paragraph here because we've combined two of the pieces. In case you guys have been with this series before, you might recognize one or two. We're combining two of them, so go ahead and perform the whole piece for us whenever you're ready.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people. It states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Beautiful! Okay, so tell us about the character you created, what they look like, their personality traits, and give us a little information on the scene that's happening.
So, the name of the character is Carter Halrun. He's this mid-sized, scrawny man who's covered in ink, paper cuts, and has a rather just set of disheveled clothing. Some of that clothing can consist of this big brown oversized coat, a pair of thick glasses with just smudges all over them, and he has this big strong furrow on his brow, really heavy bags under his eyes, and a grim look that accompanies his face on a daily basis. The scene that is happening so to put it quote, after a long day's work and having barely made it out of a rough situation by the skin of the group's teeth, Carter, who's tired and even more disheveled than usual, just wants to have a stiff drink and to get rest. And the scene that's playing out is Carter having a discussion with his group on the events that had happened, where they failed to save a few people during a town fight. The town fight consisted of a few attacks by enemy forces who had managed to infiltrate the town's security despite everything. Carter, who's already beyond stressed after the mission, as he is the group's strategist, porter, and manager of the group, absolutely beyond exhausted, and he looks like he's ready to be just done with everybody's troubles. He's just one thing from exploding at the group, and he just wants to have dinner and to just get some rest, as the next day will be his one day off a year.
Aww, I love that for him. And can you tell us the 3 personality traits that you gave to him?
Mm-hmm. So the 3 personality traits I gave him were arrogant, whimsical, and hardworking.
I love that. Okay, so this character is really interesting because, a lot of people, when they choose from the dialogue and they choose characters, no shade to them, often people will pick, what feel like the main character, right? Because that's who we all want to play, where it's I want to be the villain and I want to be the hero. And again, no shade, I always want to be the villain. But I really like this character that you've created because he kind of feels like, even if he's not the lead character, he feels like he's the influential one. If we have a shonen protagonist and the shonen protagonist is just fucking everything up, he's being too brash, right? He's going in without thinking. This character you're playing kind of feels like a Kakashi in a way, where he's kind of like the overseer, and he's like, dude, I know you're the hero, I know you're the chosen one, you need to stop. And I kind of love that energy because it's a fun character to play with. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, somebody has to manage the party's bullshit, pardon my language, and just keep them from spending their money on a whims. Like, for example, having the main swordsman of the party going to buy the next shiny sword he sees and getting ripped off by some merchant who was way too obvious of a scammer. Look at this beautiful sword. It's diamond encrusted and it can, shoot magical beams.
Oh my gosh, 100% right, and it's a toy sword that can't do anything. Like,
it's like somebody trying to have a pyramid scheme and selling sundial watches.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, and you're 100% right? I feel like this is the character you've built. Is the guy who's like, no, turn around. Like, you don't come. You can't take the money. Don't buy the sword.
The overworked dad of the group or mom, however you want to look at it.
Yes, for sure. So I really like that atmosphere. So if we take that, let's say that that's the situation. You are that style of character. You did mention that the scene that sort of happened before is you guys had a plan, but you barely made it out. And you're talking now where you're talking about the thing that happened and that enemy forces managed to get through, right? And maybe people didn't listen to your plan. I want to develop this because the best thing we can do as actors is to be really, really specific. So I want to develop your team in some aspects, but I specifically want to develop this person that you are talking to. The one that you believe is the hero, is the fearless warrior that's gonna fulfill the prophecy and do all that jazz. So let's create them. What kind of person do you picture? You can give me a reference from anime or video games. You can just give me adjectives. Who do you think the hero is?
Oh boy, that is such a loaded question. There are so many directions you can take this with. You can go with the obvious arrogant, I'm the hero, I know what I'm doing, anything I say goes, or somebody who's just like, look, I have a job to do. I'm gonna lock down and try to get this done. Doesn't matter what there is that's in the way, even if it's bystanders or anything else. You could go also with somebody who's your anti-hero, who's all edgy and like, I don't have to listen to you. I know better. I work alone. I think that something between like this self-righteous person who thinks they know better and somebody who's outright experienced while mixing that with a bit of an anti-hero attitude would be a good way to start.
I like that. Okay, so this hero character that we've built is, like you said, they're a little bit, maybe a little brazen, maybe a little rash, maybe a little like, I know what I'm doing. Almost like, if you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, we might have a bit of Zuko territory when Iroh's trying to teach him the fundamentals on the boat, and Zuko's like, I don't need to rep the basic moves, teach me something better. So maybe a bit of that. Whether or not he has the attitude and the angst, totally up to you. But the slight bit of arrogance to know that you are good, and so you kind of stop listening or make your own choices, etc., etc. So that is your hero. And I want this time, when we go around, I'm going to have you perform it again. Take a moment and realize who you are talking to. You are talking specifically to this hero who, for whatever god fucking reason, knew the plan and said, no, like, I'm not doing it. And went off and did his own thing, and he is the reason that all of you almost died. So realize he's there, picture him for a second, and say this dialogue to him. So go ahead and try that whenever you're ready.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from destruction. And I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Ooh! I loved the attitude that came out in that. Oh my gosh. It changed from the first time you did it because this time around, I could feel the frustration, right? This time it wasn't just, hey, don't be an idiot. It was, you're not just being an idiot, you are making me mad because you're being an idiot. So I could feel that frustration coming through. What did you feel when you were doing it? How did picturing that hero and what he was like change things for you?
Well, I mean, the best point of reference that I found was to picture my interactions with my friends. And as somebody who plays healer roles in game, let's just say, I'm not necessarily the god that will keep you alive, but for God's sake, stop charging into the front lines. I cannot heal you. Please, pedal back a little bit so I can come over to you, put you up at top health, and then we can begin this abusive cycle all over again.
I love that. That is a great reference point to pull from. It worked so well for you. Keep it, right? Do whatever is pulling this frustration out of you. I want to play with it a little bit. Let's talk specifics. What do you think? Well, let's get even more specific first. Who is the enemy? Is this a rival kingdom? Is this like traditional black and white, the BBEG, like this is evil, no gray area? Who's the enemy?
Well, I mean, we can take a couple of approaches to this. We can go with the classic black and white approach of, oh, look, here are some crazy cultists. Go kill them. They're trying to resurrect some evil god to bring the end of the world. The other is, you know, a more morally gray of this may be a rival kingdom, you know, and these are soldiers who have their own friends, family. However, a couple of those soldiers in the process didn't just get knocked out. They kind of lost a couple of limbs in the process. Thankfully, there were no casualties.
Good.
Although the Carter's favorite bar is now destroyed in the process, and the party having you know their status, while they have plenty of gold to burn, still has to come out of their coffers to pay for the damages regardless. And seeing those numbers is not fun, especially from somebody who may or may not come from a less privileged background.
I like that description a lot. I like the concept that this bar has been destroyed and the money sort of has to come out of their own pocket a little bit. Because that's definitely going to add into your frustration of like, everything was supposed to go smooth and now I owe money.
I love being in debt.
Literally. So I like that. I like that tidbit a lot. So let's roll with that. Let's roll with that concept of like, great, everything would have gone smoothly and now we owe money. Now we're like, that kind of energy. I want to throw in a little bit of a different emotion from frustration here. There's something that you said, which was thankfully there are no casualties. And I think wherever you find it in this dialogue is up to you while you're performing. See where it naturally comes out. But I think there's something to be said for that phrase of thankfully there's no casualties, right? If this was a real battle, if this was really the end boss and you were fighting the villain and this was do or die, like he has to fulfill the prophecy or the world ends, there is one of those moments of like, what happens if you pull this stunt when it matters, right? It won't just be a bar that gets destroyed. It will be the world. It will be me. It will be your friends and your family because you decided not to listen. So I'm gonna have you perform it again, and you can have that frustration of like, look at the shit you've done. Oh my God, like I gotta pay, my bar is destroyed, right? But see if you can find a place in here to genuinely feel that emotion of like, dude, you can't be doing this. And see where it pulls out for you. So whenever you're ready, give it another shot.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. And I believe that person is you. Even if you don't believe it yourself.
Ooh, that was so interesting. I'll commentate on it in a second, but I want to get your thoughts. How did that change from the second performance that you did earlier? What made it different? How did it feel?
Well, for one, while we were just focusing on one set of emotions, that's what ended up blanketing the entire, set of the phrasing. And because that one emotion was just applicable to the whole piece of dialogue, it ended up staying that way. Mm-hmm. However, when you throw in another element of, okay, you have to add the fact that while you do care and that while you are extremely frustrated, that fact that you care and that you know that this person can do better and that they have demonstrated it has been something that has been shown in the past, even if the hero is a glutton for punishment and only learns by trial of fire.
Beautiful. And that really came out in this one because it started a lot like in this frustration place that was almost so this first sentence was interesting because it came, instead of like a yelly frustration, it was very much like a gritting your teeth energy, where it was like, bro, if you just stick to my plan, this wouldn't happen. And it had this beautiful sort of like, I'm not gonna yell, I'm not gonna get upset. And then when you went into that second half of like, there's a prophecy, there's a warrior, I think that person is you. We as a listener and an audience really felt the emotion that you had of like, I believe in you. Even if I shouldn't, even if you're a dumbass, I believe in you and I need you to try. And then it made it really funny when you tone switched for that if you don't believe in yourself, because that ending, even if you don't, was like, because it was such a big tone flip that it was really nice to hear go from like frustration to genuine to frustration.
Like I was thinking in the back of my head for a second, I was just like, look, you may not believe it, but I hold you up to a higher standard, even if you don't believe it yourself, which is why you were taking these risks in the first place. I understand, you have this pressure of this massive title, this burden that's being held over their head. And because of that, the pressure of being perfect, the pressure of having to just be this symbol for people, it's overwhelming. Yes. And at the same time, while I do empathize with it, at the same time, I want to slap you against the back of your head for making these terrible choices.
That's correct. Yes, it was beautiful. It came out really well. And I liked the different energies that were in there. So I want to develop the prophecy a little bit. What do you think this prophecy says?
Well, as whole prophecies go and how many people love to leave them completely vague. Yep. Let's go with the completely opposite direction.
Ooh, with this. Okay.
So something, and while I don't know how to completely word this, it will be something along the lines of, you are the hero who will put an end to the turmoil between the two kingdoms. Putting an end to this massive rivalry that has been happening for a very long time, and that you will disappear from the annals of history along with this prophecy at some point. Ooh. You will be forgotten and you will not be remembered, even should there be remains of, say, statues or anything else. There will be remnants, but your name will be lost. Okay. And this is your fate. There is nothing you can do to change it. It has been foresawn.
Okay.
Whatever word is applicable here.
I really like that. There's something in that prophecy that I want to focus on a bit, which is this concept you said about like, okay, you're the hero, you stop the horrid and awful war between these two kingdoms, and there's like peace forevermore, but you're forgotten. Right? And no one will ever remember you, no matter what happens once you save the day. So you believe, as Carter, that this kid is the hero, and he's gonna save the world, and he's gonna save these people. You're frustrated with him because he fucked this shit up, and he needs to be able to do well, right? When you fight the final boss. Are you gonna be sad if he wins, and you can't remember him anymore?
Well, it depends on what a person will define as remembrance, because I did also mention the fact that there will be things like statues and remains that will be found throughout history, but the name themselves will be lost.
Okay.
It's that very specific tidbit. So it doesn't necessarily imply that maybe I'll just forget about their existence. Maybe I'll, not know who they are. But knowing that my efforts along with his will be thrown to the wayside, whether it's for politics or whether it's for somebody else's gain, or because people as a whole are inclined to forget and move on to the next thing that is put in front of them as their life continues forward.
Okay, so let's play around a little bit with that concept. This is, what kind of, relation do you think you have to this kid? Do you see him as, you're a mentor and he's your student? Do you see it as, father-son or brothers? Or what kind of relationship do you think is there?
Well, for one, the first obvious one would be the person who's the manager, and they are the actor. They are the ones who go on the front center stage, whereas I'm the one who's supposed to be pulling the ropes in the background, making sure that everything in the performance goes right. You could argue it to be a multifaceted relationship as father-son, mentor-child, and many other things. But the one undeniable fact is the fact that there is a bond and an emotional attachment between both respective parties. They both respect each other. One wants to smack the backside of the other one's head, and the other wants them to stop nagging them to do things accordingly. Because, youthful experience versus older experience, different perspectives will clash, and both sides have very valid points in certain aspects, but at the same time, other aspects may end up clashing as a result as well.
Absolutely. And I like this. There's multiple different bonds and statuses and emotional things that are happening there, because that's how we are as people, right? It's not just one defined thing. But the thing I'm harking on here, and I'm sort of pushing into getting to, is there a part of you that either wanted it to be you, or kind of mourns the fact that it is somebody you care about? He doesn't get to go live a normal child life or a normal teenage life or whatever of go own a shop and get married and, have a nice life and do whatever he has to go be the hero, and you have to hope that he lives. Is there any aspect of that? Or on the flip side, is there any aspect of it was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be the one who saved the day. What is the emotion there?
Well, let's add a little bit more to the character in this case. So let's just say that Carter at one point thought that, I'm going to be the one who's going to go try to become a hero. I'm going to be setting out on my own adventure and trying to, whether it's getting the status of nobility or more power for themselves, to be able to follow their own respective goals, noble or not. Now, let's just say he failed. He failed miserably, but he also has been around for a while. He knows how to handle a sword. He knows how to handle a lot of more responsibilities that he stupidly took on as a child. Luckily, he's not in debt and being, stalked by some mafia or something like that wants to capitalize on interest. And he is someone who's just I may be a little bit past my prime, and I wish I could give this kid the childhood and the young adult experience that I wish I had let myself have. It wasn't forced on me. I forced it on myself. So I'm going to give this guy lessons in being a responsible young person while, trying to act as like a father figure and give them a sense of normalcy so that they keep their humanity intact, because you look at the abyss of power long enough, you gotta learn to not blink.
Okay.
And so...
I love that.
And having gotten that power, sure, you got it, but there was a cost to it. And luckily for me, as Carter, I didn't have to pay too steep of a price for it. But at the same time, that may not be applicable to everybody else, including this person who was supposedly destined.
Now I'm gonna...
keep your humanity intact.
Yes. And now I'm gonna... You've said something that I want. What cost did he pay, or is he going to pay? What cost did the hero pay, or is he going to pay for being the hero?
There are a couple ways we can go with this. It could be the cost of being able to have any emotions of sympathy and empathy, losing quite literally the ability to feel emotions, becoming a psychopath. As more the naivete, the innocence is slowly drawn out, and the experiences that they get as a young adult completely making them jaded, losing all hope and faith. Or it could be, say, and this is a cost that I personally think is an extremely great one, that can be an interpretation for the prophecy as well. Over time, everyone and everything will not know you. Your experiences, your emotions, you as an entire existence will be wiped slowly but surely, whether it's through magical means or another. And this is something that can be taken obviously in a couple of different interpretations as well, but it's a cost that can happen should, the hero not keep a proper balance. They will be forgotten, driven to insanity, and thousands of years later, they could become the BBG themselves. I accomplished so much! I saved the world! How could you all forget about me? As he takes, this sword, it's such a cool theme.
This is brilliant. We're rolling with it. This is what we're rolling with. You as Carter, whether it actually happened, whether it didn't, I don't care. You as Carter, know. You as the actor know, and you're gonna play this way through Carter, that this kid's fate is inevitably gonna be, I am the hero, I save the world, and then I will be the villain. And the cycle will repeat, right? And you as Carter, I want you to put into this character maybe a little bit of the concept of, maybe I can stop the cycle. If I am guiding this kid, if I am mentoring him, if I am teaching him how to empathize, how to love other people, how to care about himself, how to wield power without being evil and selfish, then maybe I can break the cycle so that he doesn't inevitably become the villain. That is now your thought process. That is now your goal. It is no longer like I'm crafting a hero to save the world. It is I'm trying to save the hero from what he's supposed to become. As if you haven't told him the rest of the prophecy that happens after he saves the world. I think that's an excellent idea. I love this concept that you've created, and so we're gonna run with it. So I want you to go back through and do this performance, but breathe a little bit in the space of like, I have to knock some sense into this kid that he needs to care about his teammates, because I care about him, and if he doesn't get it, he's just another villain. So take a moment and put yourself there and in that headspace, and when you're ready, perform this again for us.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young man, a fearless warrior, will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Yes. Fantastic. So there was a beautiful recognition and performance in here of like genuine care and concern. And that's where a lot of frustration as humans comes from. If we didn't care, we wouldn't be upset because we don't care. And that's sort of what I wanted to punch and to like mold into this dialogue is like, yeah, we might be frustrated, yeah, we might be angry, but there's a reason, and it's because we care. And that was beautifully coming across, especially in like something that, you know, doesn't get written often into the dialogue, is the way that we express things. So that moment where you switched from in the first place and then you went was excellent, because it was us realizing, we were listening, we go, ooh, he's upset. Okay. And we could like the verbalness that you had, we could feel the energy pouring out in that moment. And it was really, really great. How did that feel compared to some of your other ones?
Well, for one, now that you're adding so much more like heft and much more detail into something like this, I mean, you're adding to a backstory, you're adding to a character and adding much more depth. You're pulling the scale, the slider up on how much more you're adding to detail. And I mean, the best way I can describe it to what emotion, you know, I was feeling, I was a father who was ready to blow up on their own child, their own son. And they're realizing, no, I cannot contradict myself and look like a villain as well. I have to be harsh, but I also have to have a softness to it, an approachability, a way for me to level myself, whether it's emotionally and even physically. Like, you know, I can just imagine Carter's this, you know, in comparison to the height of the hero, kneeling down, leveling himself with the individual and saying, look, I get it. This is not the way to go about it.
Yep.
You can do better, and I believe in you, even though I want to completely hit you upside the head.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it really came across because you're right? There's a beautiful moment of, if I'm asking him to control his temper, I need to control mine and show him that it can be done, and sort of be that role model to an extent. And that really came across because that first sentence was much more of that, like, I'm going to hit you. And that second half was like, okay, fine. And I liked that. I want to play with this a little bit in the, because I think you're getting across genuine emotions. I want to heighten them a little, because oftentimes when we are acting or voice acting or anything in the acting space, the best thing you can do is give way more than you think you should. Because it's, one, we can always turn you down. It's very hard to turn things up. But two, especially in voice acting, when all we can do is hear you, we kind of need a little bit more than feels comfortable to put in there. So I want to do something here where I want you to perform it again, and I want you to turn the knob up to like 100, like 5,000,000%. You are going at 1,000,000% speed, right? Whatever that means to you. Energy, physicality, vocal, whatever going crazy in your performance means to you, I want you to try. You're not being a different character. You're not doing something that like doesn't fit for this dialogue. I just want you to heighten it. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so. And I'm going to apologize to the viewers ahead of time if I come off as a little too high in volume, so viewer discretion is advised.
Okay, I will turn you down just in case. All right, so, whenever... I
mean, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do
you have
100% effort.
You have to. Right. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people. And it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Fantastic. I want you to do it again. Push it even more. It needs to feel like you are doing way too much. Like you are overacting, you have Shakespeare on with clown makeup. I want it to be way too much, okay? Whenever you're ready, go for it.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you. Even if you don't believe in it yourself.
There we go. I'm gonna ask you, did that feel like too much?
No, not in the slightest.
Then you better do it again. Give me crazy. I want you to cringe at yourself while you are doing it, all right? Too much. Go for it. You can do it.
All right. If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people. It states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe in it yourself.
Did that feel like a little too much?
Don't want the cops knocking at my door. Too loud.
All right, I'll let you be. But yes, so I push this kind of an exercise. I do it a lot. Anyone who's seen other episodes of the show will know that I do variations of going to extremes. And the reason why I want it is because the more we go, the more we know what works and doesn't work. Because your natural instincts will tell you where your emotion needs to be and how intense for this dialogue. But if you don't go too much or too little, then you have no baseline for, oh, I like this, versus right? So which part of it felt like too much?
I would say the initial start. I mean, you could just hear the explosion, the "Are you okay? Who hurt you?" kind of vibe from the character, and you can see them trying to like rein that in, having a lot of trouble with it, but they eventually manage to do it and level themselves to an equal on the playing field.
Yes. And I could definitely hear that in there. I would agree with you. I think the part that was too much for the character you're playing is absolutely the beginning, right? The word explosion is a great way to describe what too much was for this character. There may be some version that somebody else plays where the explosion is perfect. But for the version you're doing, yeah, I agree. It's not there and it doesn't fit him well. But what it did do, on a technical sense, was it sped you up a little with that first line of dialogue. You were able to say it entirely through without pausing, and it made it very different from your second half, which I definitely want us to keep in mind because, you know, your second half is when you're trying to get through to this kid. The first half is a little bit of like, shouldn't have said that. type of energy, right? So we want to make sure that there's a good contrast to both sides so that the listener isn't zoning out and being like, oh, he's angry. Right? They're going, oh, he's angry. Oh, he's not. Oh, right? And we keep hearing new things. So I want to try something. It's not going to work for the second half that's supposed to be like emotional and getting through to this kid. We're going to do it anyways. For this whole section of dialogue here, I want you to perform it like the entire thing is you snapping at this kid. Like this is the final straw. You are going to chew him out. If this was written differently, every bad word in the book would be spewing out of your mouth right now. I want you to do that for the entire thing. So it doesn't have to be yelly. It doesn't have to be loud. It just needs to be pointed. And you are targeting this kid specifically to be like, you're ugly, you're stupid, right? You're the reason, whatever it would be. You know, some of us, that would be a comment on our appearance. Some of us, it's a comment on our intelligence. Whatever would be the thing that would make this kid go, oh, what the? You didn't have to say that. That is what you are saying. You're just going to use this dialogue to do it. And it won't work for the second half. That's okay. I just want you to do it for the whole thing anyways. Does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay, whenever you're ready, go for it.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it in yourself.
Excellent. Fire. Tell me how it felt, just around the board.
I wanted to smack this kid upside the head extra. Just like, I'm going to shake you back and forth as I grab you from your shoulders and shake you.
Yes. And you had been saying that from the beginning, and I think you were right. And that's why I wanted to do a version of this, is because there does have to be a little bit of like, get some fucking sense into your head. And that's why I was like, yeah, because I kept hearing these performances and we were getting beautiful things, genuine emotions that were fabulous, you know, understanding that you care for this kid, you don't want him to be evil, but you're right. There does have to be some point of like a backhand, you know? And I loved it. I think it really worked for the moments that it hit in here. And I could feel that like, ooh, he mad. And I thought it was really good. If you had to change it up, where do you think that emotion or that version of being angry, that snapback, that smacking in the face, where do you think that started and where do you think it stopped?
I usually think that, well, that's a bit of a hard question. Obviously, you know, through the very first line, that it was very much consistent throughout that whole part. However, it started to waver when, you know, I started playing into the arrogant aspect of the character and trying to be like, oh, I know better. I'm whimsical and I'm going to be this sarcastic douchebag who's going to look down on you because I am an adult. I know better. I have more experiences than you. Sit down and know your place. I agree so
with
it was
you.
just like, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just saying I agree.
And I would say at the line of, it states that a young fearless warrior at the beginning of that line, and maybe at the specific word of prophecy as well, the sarcasm was much more emphasized as opposed to the other parts. Where they ended up wavering back to a lot more anger, the arrogance as opposed to the whimsy of the sarcasm.
So, I agree with you. I kind of want to play with that a little bit. Can you put that, if you want it anywhere else, the sort of snap, backhand energy, if you want to put it anywhere else in here, you totally can. But can you specifically put it, a little bit of that arrogance, a little bit of that sarcasm that you're mentioning, can you specifically put it on the words young and fearless? when you do this next performance, as if you're kind of like, you're supposed to be a young, fearless warrior. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, whatever. Put a little bit of that in there. Those are your 2 words that we are going to consider the biting insult, is young and fearless. Because for this kid, those would probably be compliments. So flip them on their head and make them come out as insults. And whatever you want to do for the rest of the performance, I'm going to let you handle because I want to see how you flavor it. So when you're ready, give that a shot.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Ooh, how did that change it up?
I like to think that, you know, while the anger and the, you know, like, arrogance are still playing a part, there is still faith in the kid regardless.
Yep.
Even if you're, you know, downplaying them, berating them, because towards the end, the message of, yeah, sure, you're still this idiotic kid, but regardless of everything, you know, even if, you know, I still believe that, you know, you are the hero and you don't believe it yourself, that is still the critical value that I hold.
Absolutely. So let's combine all of the different versions we've been working with here. There's frustration, there's a little bit of backhand and insulting, there's genuine care that, like, I am trying to stop you from being the villain. There is all of that mixed together, and I want you to think about all those different versions before you start and perform this piece again and just see where each one ends up coming out. It might change, it might be the same places it was before, but I want to see, and I'll ask you after you perform it, where you found that naturally you really wanted to go into, like, I was so mad at this point, or this is the point where I was like, dude, I care about you. I want to see where that resonates without assigning it a position. So go for it whenever you're ready.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Ooh, okay. Where do you think, tell me which ones were appearing, and where were they finding a comfortable place for you?
I would say that obviously in the first line, a lot of that rage, you know, the conflicting of, I want to not scream at this person, but I still have these heightened emotions are playing into it. I mean, if, you know, the frustration, would you stick to my plan for God's sake? We wouldn't be, you know, dealing with its repercussions. And while trying to rein them their own anger in as they're starting to go into the, you know, bit about the prophecy, that arrogance of, yeah, there is a prophecy among my people, I know better, and it's stating these bits of information that are considered fact, into this, like, sarcastic tone of, yeah, you are this person, and realizing it between the pause of, I believe that person is you, and save the fearless warrior bit, that realization of, okay, I need to tone down the sarcasm just a little bit, because I might just say something that I will regret. While there's still a little bit of hint of sarcasm, and this, oh, big whoop, you know, I still give, you know, for the impression forward of, I still care about you, even if you don't believe it in yourself, you don't care about yourself and your own well-being.
Yeah, I think it was really cool. And that's sort of the emotional intelligence and natural instinct that we try and put into performances is we want to know exactly what emotions are coming through. I'm a big fan of language and adjectives and emotions and figuring out what is happening. And then once we've tried all of them in different ways, then we need to let that natural performance instinct of like, this is when I feel angry. This is when I'm like, okay, I'm being a little too sarcastic. I need to tone it down, right? We need to let that kick in because you will know when it works for you. So I really liked that. And I loved your explanation. I thought the performance was so interesting with like the balance of this guy who is like, God, I should have been like, I could be the hero doing this, but also like sucks that it's like, I don't want this kid to go through it. But so it was really cool to see all of that resonate. We're getting close to the end of our time now. So I want to ask you, is there anything that you in particular want to work on or try? Whether it's dealing with this character, whether it's, you know, I get told this a lot in voice acting or I have trouble with this. What do you want to work on for our last couple minutes?
The biggest thing that I would like to work on personally is being able to actually not imitate a character, but being able to put myself into that character and be the facet. Yes, you have these character descriptions. Yes, you have these things and lines of dialogue that are written with intentions by a writer, but it's the voice actor, it's the actor themselves that can take this character's shell and put it on themselves like a suit of armor while taking their own motions in the appearance. So maybe something like that would be a great way to kind of maybe even expand Carter.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a lovely way of putting that. And that is sort of the basis for acting, right? Is figuring out what part of you is still in this character and can hold on to that performance and really come through. And you don't have to tell me any specifics here. Please do not share things you don't want to share. But have you ever experienced this level of frustration or anger or genuine, like, upset because I care about you in your own life? Like, have you had these moments before?
Oh, most certainly.
Okay.
I used to associate myself with somebody who I used to call a very dear friend of me. Okay. Not anymore. My opinion of them is turned very sour and turned into the opposite. I am someone who tries to deeply care about others once the initial investment and time has been put in into a relationship, because, you know, relationships are investments on both ends, and, you know, it's a give and take. It sounds transactional, but it's not when you're adding emotions and things like that to it.
One way to channel this sort of like finding yourself instead of just putting on a character or impersonating a character is to resonate back to a place when you've felt that emotion, right? For some people, that is literally, they can see the conversation with the other person happening in their head. For some people, it's a smell. For some people, it's a sound that associates with them. For some people, it's physical body positioning, because they can remember, right? Like the way they were tightening their fists when they were saying this. Whatever it is, when you go to do this dialogue for this performance here, take as long as you need before it, whether you need to close your eyes, whether you need to breathe, and put yourself into a space where you are getting to tell that person that you've just told us about that they need to shape the fuck up, right? You're going to use the language that's pre-written. You're not going to improv. You're still going to use this character dialogue. But that is now the person you're talking to. It's no longer a hero in this imaginary world. It's that person. And you are using the language that's written to get across that message. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, when you're ready, go ahead.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Beautiful. I want to run right into the next performance. Hit the yous. When you say you, it is that person. It is them. Every time you say you. Go for it when you're ready.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Beautiful. Breathe, take a moment, let that energy leave. Don't keep it in your space. We don't want it here. It's gone. We're in better places. But talk to me a little bit about that version of using language to talk to somebody that you know and that you have had a connection with, versus trying to create an imaginary version. What was the differences and how did that feel?
Well, let's take account for the fact that the performance was completely widely different from all the prior takes up to it. There was much less anger. There was much less there was much more emphasis on frustration and desperation. Of look, I know you're better than this. For the love of everything, just shape up. Get yourself together. I care for you. Please don't continue down this path that you have put yourself on.
Yep.
I understand where you're coming from, but for God's sake, cut it out.
Yep. 100%. And the word desperation, I think, rang home. This version of the performance felt very human. It felt very natural. Like the desperation that was in there, versus sort of the imaginary situations with Carter that we were doing. Not to say that his were fake, because anyone can feel the way Carter felt and resonate with that. But this version, you had a foothold where you and us as the listener and the audience, we could tell that this was a person having a conversation with a person. The prophecy, the warrior, none of that mattered because that's not what you were saying. It's what you were saying, but it's not what you were saying. And that came across because it really felt like we were listening to a drama, like a naturalized, you are college students or whatever the fuck it is and best friends. And that's the kind of intense and truly genuine human emotion that we want to bring to our performances. So well done. And thank you for going to that space. That is a very hard space to go to. So I appreciate your willingness to play.
No, of course. I mean, the only best way to be an actor, in my opinion, and you're free to deflect or say whatever you would like in opposition or in agreement, is the human experience is what makes performances at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think that was beautifully said. And, we are finding a beautiful middle ground from the early days of acting where it was relive your trauma. And we're finally in a place to mold it to where it's like, don't relive your trauma. Just go, pull those emotions. Which is a beautiful, beautiful place. So I'm gonna have you do one last performance here of this dialogue.
Of course.
We're not gonna put any, category on it or try and do it this way or try and do it that way. I just want you to give me whatever you consider your best performance of this dialogue. And that is how we will end out our show, our episode here today. Mm-hmm. But first, before we do that, can you remind the people of your name and where to find you?
So I go by the name of ConstantineVO. I will have a Twitter tag that I will send to our wonderful host, Rachel, over here. I will also provide a couple of others, links as well, such as Instagram and maybe a couple of other things, but they will be listed in the description.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, to close this out, give us your best performance.
If you would just stick to my plan, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. There is a prophecy among my people, and it states that a young, fearless warrior will save them from devastation. I believe that person is you, even if you don't believe it yourself.
Incredible. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And to everybody on YouTube that is watching and all the other places, stick around for more episodes. Do all that stupid YouTube junk with subscribing and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.